All right, we're officially recording. Good afternoon, everybody. Wall Street Jesus here. We're waiting on AMD. Might as well wait on that. Should be any minute now. Apple will come out as we're running our mouths. But so far, you got Twilio out. Kind of, weak off the number. They supposedly had decent numbers. Twilio would have really had to knock the ball out of the park to get a nice reaction. Stock's been fire. A little semiconductor, LSCC, some recent put selling and unusual call sweeper activity there. Mr. Zich, you Steam members know who I'm talking about, has a nice position there. And we're just waiting on AMD here. We got Apple at 4:30. And we'll see how that goes. Let's go, AMD. Stop playing games. Either way, I'd be interested in seeing how they treat, if any, weakness in this AMD.
Still waiting for AMD.
Tomorrow.
Earnings for Apple coming out in about 10 minutes.
We got a couple interesting things to go over. I'd like to hear from you guys too, what you've been playing aside from rolling the dice in the earnings. What type of strategies maybe you get.
Moelis, Michael Charlie, 27.
Maybe you guys are implementing. I tell you, the most success I'm finding out there, I haven't really, we were talking about this in the room today, I haven't taken any full-size position call as far as calls are concerned. I've been playing around with equity primarily. A lot of you guys know I day trade the equity. I like to swing trade calls, but because we're in earnings season,
AMD reporting a penny.
AMD out.
Non-gap of 6 cents on AMD. The estimate was 5 cents. That's a penny beat.
A whole penny.
Revenue 1.27 billion. That's also a beat.
Beat.
Shares popping here on that. Alpha Michael Delta 28.70 the high. For the second quarter, AMD expects revenue to be about $1.52 billion, plus or minus 50 million. That's an increase of about 19% sequentially and a decrease of about 13% year over year.
That's
Alpha Michael
Delta. I don't know how
earnings and revenue beat.
They held AMD down to this point into earnings. I really thought they were going to run this thing prior to the numbers.
And over $29 now. Company expects non-GAAP gross margin to be about 41% in Q2.
Yeah, that's probably what they were doing. All right, I'm sure you got guidance and conference calls, so we'll get started here.
So that's a beat for advanced micro devices and shares popping.
Let me mute Algo Jesus. All right, so if Apple comes out, give me a heads up. If anybody out there gets it, and I'll share it with everybody, or I could turn Algo Jesus on for that. But yeah, George made a funny remark on here. He's like, he's implemented the ass-kicking strategy. And, during this time, we talk about it a lot. It can get rough. It can get rough because even though you see the market go higher, right, this is something we discussed even before earnings season started because of the difficulties it'll bring with it. Individual names get tricky. You throw in where we're at as a market as a whole, as far as rally is concerned, and all that jazz. You'll get what we're seeing right now. You get rallies in the indices. Sometimes not even all the indices at once, right? You get NASDAQ moving, or the Russell may lag, or the Dow may lag. Then the next day you get the Dow moving. The NASDAQ's underperforming. So you get that type of price action, and even worse is in the individual name complex it becomes really frustrating because you can time an entry right with the market, be disciplined, and then you catch the rally and that name doesn't participate. Or even worse, we were talking about this, the night before you have somebody in the group that you weren't even aware was reporting, and you're playing an earnings run up in XYZ, and the number in the group warns the night before, and the market rallies, and that stock is actually experiencing selling pressure, right? So that's what earnings season will bring with it, okay? And again, I know I'm not over exaggerating when I stress, especially when you got a rally here that stretched without a legitimate pullback and long in the tooth. Very rarely does everything participate, like it was for at least the first half of this rally. That's those are the fun times for me, like at the early part of the rally where, and you don't need everything, but at least you feel confident that if you're going to hop on something and you're going to get a market lift, there's a good chance it's going to take that name with it. And now, obviously you see with your own two eyes, that's not always the case. What I was mentioning, what I'm actually finding the most success in, and you have to trade equity, in my opinion, to do so. I guess you can, if you're size down, you can play the options as well. But some of the under the radar names, like Zich mentioned this LSCC, he rolled the dice into earnings, but the stock had a nice run even before earnings. A lot of you guys, we were talking about that G-Sky that we were in, GSKY, and even smaller moves, 1-2 day moves, you get some momentum, you get in and out. But that's where I've been finding the majority of my success in that type of stuff. I haven't really even fooled around in much of anything else. I've been doing a lot of passing. Some names I really like. We spoke about them on the prior webinar. Some names that, if it wasn't earnings season and this was clean action, I wouldn't even think twice of jumping all over. I will talk about a couple names today. Let's jump into that anyway. We'll start with the action today. And that's what I stress to you guys too. It's not just that your risk goes up when it's earnings season, okay? You got obviously some added risk out there for the reasons I just mentioned. But for what's even more irritating and frustrating for me is the flow. You guys who are members heard me mention this, I really don't have much of a handle on the flow in individual names. Again, because I don't know what's clean and what's not, all right? And here's an example. Again, today, in my opinion, I do this every day at the end of the day, and we talk about them, trade them, discuss them throughout the day. But these are Tuesday's top bets, okay? Not because of the size, okay? Not even necessarily because of the aggressive nature behind the activity, which that's an important characteristic for me, okay? But just because I feel there's a stronger possibility of the activity being clean. Again, clean meaning it's not necessarily a play on earnings or earnings in the group, all right? And we can run through them quick because there's only 3 names on here. There was a lot more call buying out there today. But these were the 3 that looked the cleanest to me. All right, you had Grub. Now, let me get to a 1 chart here. AMD looking strong. Hopefully they don't say anything to rain on your parade over there in the conference call or whatever. All right, so you got Grub. And usually this is something I really look for. I look for these squeeze plays, especially these beaten down. Like you look at it daily on this Grub, it doesn't get much uglier than this. Oh, Hold on. All right, so here you go. Grub destroyed, right? Flow here and there. There's been some squeezes, especially recently. We've seen some smaller call sweeper activity. And today you had a new low into weakness. There was one call sweeper, smaller in size, then another one larger in size, then another small one, then a block. So it was pretty obvious that somebody was either concerned about a squeeze in the name, right? Could have been a short that was anticipating a squeeze, or somebody, playing for a squeeze. And this is where, like, in times like this, because I get this question a lot during earnings season when I'm not playing with as much confidence, the question is, how greedy do you get, right? And that's what you weigh, your risk to reward. Now, I could take this for a swing and look for that extra oomph over the next couple of days. But for me, and I sold it pretty quickly, I had a decent day trade out of it, and I'm okay with that right now, right? I'm okay with that till we get through another week of this earnings season, things clear up. I can be less greedy and more patient, so I can play with more confidence when there's a better setup out there. All right, but these are things you have to weigh the risk to reward on your behalf, and you have to make these decisions for yourself, and you can't really pay attention to what anybody else is doing out there. For those out there who did get a little more greedy on the grub, they got rewarded. I can't let that bother me. Like we were talking about this in the room, I'm going to curse it out as it pushes higher after I sell it. But in reality, I can't let that bother me because, that was my intention when I bought it anyway. I was looking for the quick bounce, the quick squeeze to make some money, grind it out. Like I said, not to sound repetitive, but in the time where I play with less confidence and be a little more patient. All right, but there was pretty much an instant reaction off this grub. We're selling through the early part of the day. This is a 5-minute, and you can see they right into the lows. They nailed the lows and pushed higher from that point on. Apples out. Paulson's apples out. Oh boy. Beat.
Apple shares spiking $209.23. Apple board authorized additional $75 billion in share buybacks.
Here we go.
That's AAPL.
It's unbelievable.
Declared a cash dividend of 77 cents. That's up 5% for Apple. Quarterly iPhone net sales of 31.05 billion. iPad net sales of 4.87 billion. Mac net sales of 5.51 billion. Quarterly wearables, home and accessories net sales of 5.13 billion.
If you're not in equities right now, this market has you talking to yourself.
Installed base of over 1.4 billion active devices.
Think about this. Okay, we get frustrated when we're not in a day we're not in positions, right? We're in cash, or we took profit, or we're not fully invested. Think about missing this whole rally and now facing the decision, if you're managing money, whether to get in here or not and start buying. That's not a good feeling. And the market is not going to make you feel better about it. You know that, right? There's no shot of that happening.
212.18 now. Apple continuing to
oh my God
on that better than expected report.
Yeah, so now now there's going to be juice tomorrow off these things. But I'm hoping, again, as we come out of this week, I'm hoping for some rotation. Like the AMD looked great. If it wasn't for earnings, I think AMD was a decent setup for a swing, right? We spoke about that. You had nice consolidation here, doing its thing. It's not even at new highs. You had earnings getting in the way of a lot of things here. All right, but What could happen, because there's been a lot of chase in these things, we could see the money start to rotate, and we'll talk about that. All right. All right. So you got Apple, AMD. They look good early on here, and we'll see if that carries over. Should carry over into tomorrow. Let me get back to what I was talking about here. All right. So we had the grub. There was more action. This was the sweep that pretty much confirmed the squeeze was taking place. And here's another thing, guys. May, short dated, right? They're not calling a bottom. I mean, my interpretation of that order flow is strictly a squeeze, strictly a bounce. So, that's another reason why I wouldn't get too greedy as far as the upside is concerned. This one was the order of the day right here. UPS, you could see decent size, over $500,000 sweep, opens a new position, multiple exchanges. Everything you would want to see in a sweep. Usually in a strong market, you see a couple of those throughout the day, and that's what makes up this top bet list. But now with earnings season, a lot of these type of orders are tied to earnings, and that's why you have to take it down a couple scales off that because they're earnings related. But this was the top bet, nice reaction, and the only thing I was saying is that for swing trade reasons, I day traded this too. I didn't swing trade this one either, but for a swing trade for a position, you would want, in my opinion, a little further out in time, just to give you that confidence that somebody was making a bet on the name and not just a trade. Okay, the way I interpret that order is pretty much similar to the grub, but the difference is a lot more authority behind it, right? A lot more size. But here's the UPS. And again, off a pull, right? So it's not chasing anything here. Off earnings. And, there's your turn. And strong reaction. If you were looking just to day trade it, same thing. Strong reaction. You could see where this thing got hot. All right, so that was actually SWKS rocking too. They didn't come out with earnings, did they? Maybe off the Apple they're rocking. Oh, they did? Holy cow. This thing reported? No, not yet. May 3rd. That's probably up on Apple, Paul. Yeah. That's why I was saying it's a double whammy. It's a play on Apple and they have earnings. This thing can move too. Yeah, it caught a nice sweep. I think it was weeklies, right? Jesus Christ, the moves in these things. So UPS, okay, that was your top sweep of the day there. Definitely swing worthy if you were interested in taking it for a swing. Again, that's your call. These are the calls you're going to have to make no matter what you're trading off of. My job is to tell you whether the order is legit, and the order was definitely legit. And then, normally I don't know if I even put this action on the top bet list, but it was clean action and it was legitimate buying. It's MAS, Masco. All right. They were accumulating July calls. I think it was maybe 2-3 times they hit it throughout the day. You guys remember this. We were talking about this as a name to buy off earnings the last couple of quarters. If there was any weakness, this thing got plastered in the correction. Then you could see it got a little too hot, ran into a niner here, nice breather. And here's where the buying's starting up with some time behind it, July's. I didn't even day trade this. I heard it had a decent move just because I didn't think it would move too much off the July's. All right, so those are the 3 top bets on the day, the cleanest action on the day. In other words, here are some of the sweeps. Size. This is size according to contract size, not dollar amount. EEM FXI had a little more buying today. They both have been breathing nicely. Right? FXI, a lot of people, you could see fear starting up in FXI already off this little pullback. Right? You had some economic numbers not looking too dicey. Meanwhile, in my opinion, the best thing that can happen are the economic numbers not being too solid coming out of China. Because if you remember what happened, China was abysmal, right? And then they started cooking the goose there, right? Stimulus. And you get this rally, we got that across the whole globe. Now, as the rally took place, the economic numbers were still poor, and then they started to turn. You started to get some good news out of China. Then, lo and behold, at the top here, we go into a little breather, and now, again, the PMI yesterday was weak. Not to get too macro on you, but the best thing that could happen, because there were even some talk out of China that they were going to stop stimulating. All right? The best thing that could happen is these numbers don't have that V-shaped recovery to them, and China really steps on the gas there. And if China really steps on the gas there as far as stimulus, that's where you see these things go cuckoo. All right, so China, nice breather. There was some buying again today. EEM caught a little bit of buying. So if you're interested in those two spots, again, it'd be a lot better for us once we get out of through the heart of earnings season. If we see them start to really get aggressive in the individual names to make a play on it. You could also look at the leveraged ETFs. If they start catching flow, remember the yin or whatever the hell it's called, ASHR, they get aggressive with when they want to make a run there. So something to keep an eye on. All right, so you had EEM, FXI, the financials caught a little bit of more action. SPY caught a couple sweeps. IWM, in my opinion, had the best action. All three caught action. SPY, Qs, IWM. IWM had the best of the three today. Not that it means anything, but it had the best of the three. What else? Oh, that was a roll. We actually saw, this was a roll here, the call buyer on VXXB. We actually saw, and this is what's amazing, okay? Those of you who have been with me for a while know there's nothing better than volatility put sweepers, right? You see multiple volatility put sweepers, UVXY puts, VXX, now VXXB puts, right? You just get long something is basically what that means, okay? The thing is, we usually see them off pullbacks, off weakness, all right? And a lot of times they'll nail bottoms, right? We've seen it time and time again, they nail bottoms. What we're seeing is these volatility put sweepers in a market that doesn't pull back, all right? And to be honest, yeah, once in a blue moon, we would see them in the past, but not like we've been seeing them here. So this is pretty new, you know? I've never seen vol put sweepers into strength of a rally like this. Where's it? VX? Oh, I don't need that. VXB. All right, so this is what they hit up today. This is the one guy, right? Oh, no, this is it. June 7th, 22.5. There was before that. Here it is. May 24th, $22 puts. Then you had a sweep here, May 20, same line, $22 puts, 11 cents. And this was when VXXB was actually green on the day, and the market was showing a little bit of weakness. I don't want to even call it weakness. We had down for 5 minutes. But VXXB was actually up on the day, right? Yeah, they're getting aggressive, and they know what's coming. See, and that's what's going on right now. We've been talking about it a lot. I get a lot of questions because maybe some new traders don't understand the lingo and what's taking place. What simply is going on now, okay, is you have a market, a rally that's stretched, right? We've come a long way. Due for a pullback, without a doubt. The problem is, and it's not a problem for bulls, it's a problem for the non-believers, positioning. There's still no, as far as positions out there, there's still no exposure to equities, okay? Funds lack exposure. Hedge funds lack exposure. You have a lot of money out there that has to get in that hasn't gotten in, okay? And that's what we're seeing. Every single dip get bought. If you guys remember, we were talking about this. We've been talking about this for a while. But if you remember me telling you that, from my experience, it doesn't always have to equate to a melt up. Okay, a lot of people think it's automatically equals a melt up. It doesn't mean a melt up all the time. What it means is that there should be support on any dips, on any pullbacks. Okay, and that's what a lot of us were hoping for. We didn't want a melt up because you could see how a melt up becomes difficult, right? Not all names participating. You get this little gap up and flat, gap up and flat. It's not the best trading environment. It's the best environment to just sit in what you're long and just sit there. Okay. For us, what we want these. We want these things here. See this little pullbacks? Okay, because what happens as you get these little pullbacks, you get bears starting to come in and short, thinking they're going to catch a big short, and that adds more fuel to the fire. You understand? So they're shorting the indices. They're shorting names that maybe are showing some weakness, some cracks. And that's where you get a rally. When you come out of it, the rally is much more broad, a lot more participation. A lot more strength. So what we're getting now is you're getting this little melt up here, and you look like on your watch list, there'll be stocks that are red as the market's melting up, right? And that's what a lot of you are probably referring to when you're saying it's getting tricky out there, not full participation. All right, so that's why, we were rooting for this type of pullback here because I think it sets up a better entry, a better risk reward, and even more juice to the upside. So it can happen like that, or it can happen like this. And it seems to be that melt up chase mode now. You can see today, right? Market's down. Look like you're finally getting some weakness. And then all of a sudden, boom, buyers out of nowhere. All right. And what's another thing too? A lot of people have been talking about, they've been talking about the volume. The volume's been awful. Okay. The volume's been awful. But the reason why volume's been awful is because nobody has participated in this rally. That's why. And think about that. There's not going to be any volume on the sell side if nobody's long stock. And you look at any measure out there. You look at whether it's the COT data that comes out every week, which shows speculators hardly at neutral. They were net short. Okay, they're barely at neutral. Hedge funds, I've shown you 50 different looking charts, just so you don't think the one chart we look at is wrong, of hedge fund equity exposure readings, just not there, right? And fund flows. And usually, from my experience, since I'm in the game, right, and I've been playing this game since '98, when you see that type of setup, the market will force them in. And usually there's not that, the music doesn't stop until they get in. That's usually how these things finish up. All right. But again, I want to stress the play on that is not just get long anything. Because again, you see what problems you can run into just buying anything thinking we're in melt up. You can play the indices, but again, the biggest bang for your buck on the indices is if you're in it and you're sitting. Because like Ani just said, oh, another gap up tomorrow, right? So this market probably gaps up, sits there if you're lucky, and the likelihood is there's going to be some sort of fade at some point. So that's where things can get tricky. But again, we want to remain bullish, right? Especially into weakness. As we come out of earnings season, we have to keep our eyes even more open, right? The whole sell in May, go away. Forget that nonsense. Sit still in May and look for a rotation is my slogan. So hopefully as we come out of earnings season, and there are a lot of things lining up showing us that there's a strong possibility of this happening. Nomura's Charlie McElliott, those of you who know me know I'm a big fan of his, is calling for that. It's a matter of timing where they come out of some of these overheated Microsoft type names, right? And these things don't have to necessarily crash. I know McElliott is calling for once there's that trigger that these things have a couple of days where they get hit hard. That's what he's calling for. But the way you got to look at it is that they're going to be a source of funds. So in other words, they're going to take money from Microsoft, from their profits, and they're going to start to look at plays on reflation. Economically sensitive names, the financials. All right, another McElliott nugget for you. He mentioned that the positioning amongst CTAs, is that what they call CTAs? The quants, okay? They are all in long now in specific sectors only, okay? Specific sectors, not the total market. So like, for example, software, they're at the 100th percentile, meaning they're all in long and been that way for a bit now, okay? The financials and some of the cyclicals, they're in the single digit. Yeah, CTA quants, that's what they consider trend following, right? Exactly, Stephen. So the cyclical names and the financials, they were in the single digit percentile, showing they had no exposure there. Okay, so what happens once that rotation gets triggered, and that's the beauty of what McElliott looks at, it's all levels, these quants. There's no decision making on their own, or today we want to rotate. It's all levels, okay? So once some of these names start, there's some sort of trigger where they sell, okay? They reach a certain level, boom, they take their percentage long down. They have another level, it gets there, they take their percentage long down. All right, and what he's calling for is as they do that, they're going to bring their percentage long up on other things. And that still has to happen before this whole bull move comes to an end. All right. And a big piece of that, from my understanding, what he's calling for is China applying more stimulus, and that's going to create that aggressive nature to get behind that reflation trade. And if you look, all right, the banks already have started performing, right? We see that already. But if you look across the board, there are so many damn things out there. Like even Caterpillar, stock hasn't gotten killed or anything, right? But look at it. It's just sitting there waiting for rotation, right? Just sitting there. And there's so many things that look like this. And if we can have our way what would happen is as we get through this week, things are going to clear up so much more on the flow end, without a doubt. Okay. Once we get through this week, we're going to start to see in the flow, that's where our edge will be of, what particular names, what groups they may be starting to rotate into. If the trade deal collapses, yeah, golly, I try not to pay attention to any of that stuff, golly, to be honest, because I can't expect to figure that stuff out when some of the smartest minds out there can't, right? If you told me that there wasn't going to be a trade deal and we are where we are now and no trade deal, I would tell you, the market's at new lows, right? And you pull up a chart and we're at new highs. So from my experience, as scary and spooky as that stuff may be, golly, it means nothing to us. You understand? It can only cost us money trying to figure that stuff out. And for anybody who thinks I'm speaking fake news here, just look at what just took place in the market, okay? You had one of the strongest rallies out of a correction, bear market, whatever label you want to put on it, ever. And the whole way up until recently, the fundamental backdrop, the macro backdrop, whatever, the trade wars, were all negative headlines. All of it. We still have no trade deal, right? The economic numbers were getting worse to the point where the Fed not only capitulated, flipped to the other side talking QE. Okay? So, like, if I gave you that information, even if you did your homework and you figured all that out ahead of time in December, that would have just cost you money because you would have been even more negative and you would have never believed at any point in this rally. And that's why nobody is in equities, okay? Because the smarter minds out there, that's what they were figuring, golly. That's what they were figuring. They were right. They were right. But they were wrong as far as the market's concerned. And it's the perfect piece of evidence for all of you, especially new traders out there, that all that stuff means nothing, okay? And you're going to run into, some Ivy League guy out there who, you may share what I'm telling you today, and he's going to call me a moron and blah, 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 blah. But I'm telling you from my own experience, if it was as easy as figuring out the macro side, earnings and all that to make money in the market, you know how many people out there do that on a day-to-day basis? The market knows what we see in front of us 6 months ago. 6 months ago, what we're seeing in front of us right now, the market already knew and was starting to factor it in. So basically what I'm getting at, golly, is this. For me, and again, once we come out of earnings season, we're going to get a clearer picture on it. As long as we're seeing names, right, make this list here, and that's what it comes down to, okay? As long as there's stuff on here throughout the week, and we have some setups to look to buy, there's no reason to overthink things. Now, where I would get concerned, golly, is if we come out of earnings season and on this list, I have hardly anything, right? Or I'm complaining about the lack of buying out there, that's when I get concerned. So, as much as people call me a perma bull, I am a perma bull, but I'm not a stupid bull. You know what I mean? If sweepers are telling me that they're not being aggressive as far as getting long anything in this market, I'm not going to go create shit out of thin air and start buying stuff on my own. And the reason for it is because if I listened to myself, I probably would have never got long throughout this whole rally. You know? So that's what it comes down to. All right. So the picture perfect thing, the ideal setup scenario coming out of this week. Okay. This week, the flow should be mishmashy. You're going to see puts. You're going to see calls. There's going to be earnings names, catching size action, all that stuff. But once we get into next week, we got the Fed, right? We got the Fed tomorrow too, by the way. As we get out of this week into next week, we're going to start to see non-earnings related names hit this screen here, throughout the day. And hopefully they're rotation type names, right? Initial activity type names, just like this, just like today. All right. But more likely, more names, better looking action like the UPS sweep. And that will be, our sign that what we just spoke about, that rotation plays in play. And the good thing about that, I'm trying not to get too overexcited, because when I get too excited, that rotation never takes place. But the good thing about that, the reason why I'm excited about that is that's our next setup where we can make some money. Okay. It's all fine and dandy, flipping things, chasing stuff, right, into strength. They're moving, but you never have that confidence to hang in there long enough, because you're waiting for that pull, right? You're waiting for that pull in these things. But once you get these type of setups start to catch that missile type action we talk about, that's where the money's made. That's where the money's made. So that's what we have to look forward to. I hope we get one more flush. One more flush? We haven't got a flush, period. There hasn't been a flush at all. The best thing we can hope for at this point is what I'm flush this. What I'm telling you is some of these hotter names stall out, right? There'll be some pullbacks. There'll be snapbacks. There'll be chop, but they stall out. Like, for example, Microsoft, okay? I mean, it's going to reach a point where this thing's got to stall out a bit. Otherwise, it's on pace to be $500 in 6 months. Yeah, so it gets a little choppy, sideways, comes down a little bit here, shakes some people out. And while that's going on, right, because all the eyeballs are on that stuff right now. That's the stuff that's moving. That's the stuff that's reporting earnings. That's all the sizzle. While that stuff is starting to stall, what the smart money's doing is they're utilizing those funds and rotating into the stuff that hasn't participated as much. And if you want an example, the financials are one example of that have already started to see rotation. They got hot, and you can see how quick it happens, right? You can see how quick it happens. Like, you remember this? You guys remember this? The inverted yield curve right here. That was the inverted yield curve. That's where whoever was thinking about buying the banks, right here, right? Whoever was thinking about buying the banks, looking for the move, they got washed out right here. Whoop, bye-bye, good night, gone. And then reversed it off earnings and goop. Yeah, see, you got a 5-minute pullback in Twilio. That's good, no? It's green? Are you serious? Oh my God, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. They don't want to give these things up, huh? But this is the type of action you see, guys. This is what happens, this is what happens when nobody's in them. So think about this. You manage money, right? And Twilio is one of these growth stocks you have to own, and you're waiting for a pullback. Yeah, think about it. Put yourself in those shoes there. this might be your pullback. And here it is. Boop. It's nuts. But that's why, you know, a lot of these things too, look for weakness. Look for weakness for trades. And that'll be where the opportunity is for short-term stuff, right? Texas Instruments had something like that off earnings. That red lasted 5 seconds in Texas Instruments, literally 5 seconds. The market opened, I sneezed. The market opened, I saw Texas Instruments down off earnings. I sneezed, and then I looked back up at the screen, it was green. Right here. Look at it. Right here is Texas Instruments earnings. It was down off earnings. Do you see it anywhere? Here's earnings right here. It really is incredible. Yeah, Paul, right? That's what Paul's saying. When GE is acting well, you know they're just looking to buy shit. You know they're looking to just buy stuff. But again, the one thing I will share is that we don't want to get silly. You know what I mean? We don't want to get silly. You don't want to start a position in Microsoft up here, in my opinion, and sit in it. You know, just sit in it. You have a profit there, not take it. You know, you want to take advantage of the backdrop here. And the backdrop is money needs to get in these things. And the likelihood is when they're down, that's where the entry will be, you know, for a trade. But, you know, to get into a Microsoft up here and thinking that this is going to take place again, you know, that's the tough part. That's where you don't want to get caught. You know? And again, post earnings will tell us more. Post earnings will tell us what buying is real and what buying is not. You know, there's an energy name I'm interested in seeing, like MPC. Okay? You guys see the action that's coming into this thing. Like, if this thing does nothing, reports earnings, and we never see a call buyer again, we know all that flow is nonsense. You know, nonsense to us. It meant nothing. But if this thing reports earnings and is down or sideways and the buying continues like it's been, there you go. The flow's showing its true colors. You know, it's worth a shot. So we'll see. Anybody have any questions on anything we're talking about here? All right, we spoke about this more than enough, right? So next week, I think we'll have more names to talk about and stuff like that. There's a lot of good-looking names out there that I've passed on the swing. I keep telling you guys, like, this is one here, right? The sale. Like, see, I think if this wasn't an earnings play, this thing probably would have took off by now, off that sweep. This thing doesn't see a sweep like that unless it's earnings, you know, and it's grinding higher. But off a sweep like that, this thing would have took off already. You know, so you gotta be a little. We gotta play smart here. Has the selling in Tesla been shorts or longs bailing? Honestly, I have no read on Tesla whatsoever. The flow's been mixed. There hasn't been really any order that's gotten my attention yet. You know, if you guys remember, the type of action I would be looking for in Tesla is like that action we saw come into this low here, if you remember. Remember that aggressive action? They hit it like 6 times throughout the day. Like, that's what I would be looking for if you're interested in Tesla. But I don't know, like right now, you see a call buyer hang around 15 minutes, there will be a put buyer. You know, it's been that type of flow. And you would expect that. You know, you're coming out of earnings. Tesla is one of those controversial names. You know, so you want to see somebody get really aggressive. And the way I look at it is the way I looked at it here. They're going to force me to buy Tesla. You know what I mean? They're going to force me to buy it. like I like this setup as far as sentiment is concerned, right? Tesla looks ugly, looks scary, everything I want to see. But for me to make a play or flow, they gotta convince me that they're buying it, and I haven't seen that yet. Like I said, whoever was around for that action back here, that's the type of action you would want to see in it. But as far as sentiment is concerned, it's pretty much already set up there. Delivery numbers coming soon. Oh, so you got more numbers coming out there. Yeah, we'll see. You know, we'll see how it lines up. What else? Anybody see any non-earnings action? There's been some under the hood type stuff too. You see this thing? I'm in some equity in this thing, Team. But you got earnings here May 8th, so I gotta sell this thing now. You know, any day I gotta sell this thing, and it's a shame because you know you got a little $4 software stock. You sold it at 4.5 tree. I don't blame you. You gotta take what you can get right now, right? Like even the G Sky, I sold it early tree. You sold it too, right? But you got earnings coming up. You got the move. So you know these type of things I've been doing, I've been finding success with. In the meantime, they've been good to me. These things. Yeah, I've been quicker, but that's okay. You know, quicker on the sell side and all. But yeah, you know, the Team we could watch off earnings if it's still around. See what happens there. What else? Anybody else have any? Baidu, I saw a little bit of action there today, I think it was. But yeah, you got earnings coming up. You know what's another one that had a better setup? JD. But you have earnings coming there too. You know, JD, you know, we were just talking about this. You guys remember. JD, you had a nice run, right? Into a niner here. Nice little breather, right? Niner came a little early, but so what? And the flow, there's been some flow. And today you got an upgrade. So you would have got lucky if you played it before earnings, but I didn't. But yeah, if you don't have earnings in the picture there, you got a nice setup there. You had a nice setup there. And there's a good amount of stocks like this. You know, they don't all look like Microsoft and Twilio. So if they want to rotate, yeah, the Huya. I need a baby Jesus miracle here. What do I have? March 6th, whatever. So I need a miracle here on my calls. Took a little too long here. Look at this. What the hell is this? Aggressive entry. They're trying to talk me into buying it. You see that? Aggressive entry. Off a niner. But yeah, Julio looked good while it was doing nothing. It just was doing nothing, you know? It's a crazy stock, too. This thing could go bing, 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 and before you know it, you'd be like, oh my God. She's nuts. But that's all right. More than likely, I'd probably lose the money in the calls, and it was worth the shot anyway. What else? Anybody else have any names they're looking? They're going to keep an eye on post earnings, or what? Everybody being quick? Everyone just trading out there? That's the best thing to do. Oh, somebody mentioned SRPT got beat up today. I didn't see it. Let me see. Same as it usually does. Yeah, same shit. You got earnings coming up here. She just moves, you know? She moves. That rally was like 10 points. Then you had to come back to where she started. Yep. She'll probably catch news, Paul. You know what I mean? Usually that's the case. Catches some sort of news. Hopefully for those of you who are in those August calls, it's good news. And the stocks at new highs. Yeah, exactly. Down here, right where those niners are, that's been the perfect entry, right? That's been the floor. That's where they support it. MHK, what's that been doing? That's one of those candidates, George. You know, and they don't catch a lot of action. So when they do, it stands out like a sore thumb. Yeah, look at that. Wow. That's set up nice. So hopefully we see flow in these things, George. Yeah, TM is looking good. Just Ani, a couple people sold it yesterday. I didn't sell mine yet. I'm probably going to sell it the next day or two because of earnings. Are you holding through? I got the equity, so I'm not going to hold through. If I had the calls, maybe I would hold through. CGC, oh, that was down today, right? Oh, Niner. That had a sick run, though. But still looks good. You got a Niner there. So maybe she takes a little bit of a breather, you know? Maybe a little boop, 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 boop. And then you go beep. But yeah, this is a big move. Yeah, the square right into earnings, right? Wound up one way or the other. Look at this. Jesus. Yep. I would love a shake and bake, Paul. Is there any shot of that off earnings where they drop it, get some people out, and then reverse it, kind of like Twilio? That would be beautiful. But look at that, huh? Talk about breathing off a Niner. Look at this. Now that's some nice consolidation. Yep. That's why I'm hoping maybe after earnings you get a little slip and people are thinking it's breaking down, but then some buying comes in and does the U-turn. Yep. Definitely going to be fun to watch that. Amarin earnings tomorrow. Do they matter as much in this thing, Ani, or it's just drug news and stuff? Oh, it does matter? This still looks good. I know I say it all the time, but this still looks good to me, you know? The only problem with this is, in my opinion, catching the big move, because you had this huge ramp here, right? And when they go into consolidation off that, usually it's for a decent amount of time. Not all the time, but for a decent amount of time. All right. Now, if you bought some pullbacks, you know, you had some solid trades there. But, you know, if you wanted to get greedy with it, you know, it's kind of just one big consolidation here. Where is PayPal right now? Why? PayPal's running? That's another thing. Like, if PayPal, that type of action, I'm not playing it. Like, I can't figure out what the hell's going on with this PayPal. They literally been buying weeklies in PayPal the last 2 days, every 10 minutes. Yeah, you remember that? Everybody was saying that Square was the better play than PayPal, and now look. Remember PFD? I was in PayPal, I was complaining it wasn't doing anything. Here. Right? This. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then once it got out, right? Whoop. Unreal. Oh, you're talking about even the initial sweeps way back. You're talking about in the 50s. Yeah. You're talking about back here. Yep. Jesus. But yeah, forget it. You could have got rich if you were in those still. The what I was gonna say, the last 2 days PayPal, all those weekly sweeps, I don't know what the hell's going on. You think they're just playing Square earnings? Could that be possible? All that action for Square? It's hard for me to believe that it's just for, right? It can't be. type of sweeps, I didn't even post all of them because there were so many. You know, I didn't even post them all. I posted, you know, as much as I possibly could. Look, 440, 400, 460, 300, 400. Look at this accumulation. 400, 400, 400. Look, this is all today. I didn't even get to yesterday yet. 400. A little more PayPal flowing in. 340. Then we get to yesterday here. Look at this. 400, 250, 400. Look at this. Unreal, right? I don't know what they're doing. I don't know. Looks like it's up aftermarket with some of the tech. Oh no, I thought it was it. Anyway, we'll see. Could be Square. I have no idea. Again, on Visa MasterCard, you think? Maybe you're playing on all that, you know? Maybe you're playing on all that. You know, because a lot of times that's what they do. If IV is junked up in, let's say, Square, you know, they'll make a play off PayPal instead. But, you know, if we were in an earnings season and you see activity like that, I don't care where the stock is. I really don't. Even where it is, new highs, you see relentless call. That's a machine. That's machine buying. That's a machine program to sweep all day. Yeah, I looked at it the other day, that VMW. Another beast. Wow. My God. Some of these things are insane. Insane. Jesus. All right. Anybody have any other names to throw out? You got nothing, Tree? That's all right. That's good. Like I said, the way I look at it, Tree, we've been grinding it out, right? You had a couple nice winners, and we wait till next week, and hopefully things clear up. We get some better setups. Why force anything? Xilinx had a little bit of action into the weakness. Out of the money stuff, nothing really too good looking. But I haven't seen anything new in Xilinx post earnings. ATVI, they have earnings, right? Yeah, look, still just sitting here. What about EA? Same thing, just sitting around, right? And Take Two. They look good. They all have earnings. They look good. Yeah, the healthcare stuff caught some buying. There was one specific ETF sweep in XLV that was really good looking. It was this one here, June's. But this was, I think, late last week. April 26th. This is it right here. June 91 calls, 82 cents. So, yeah, so XLV was catching put activity as it was going down, and then at a couple bull bets, this one stood out without a doubt. $800,000+ sweep there. But that was about a buck or so ago, 88. That was, I think, on this day. So yeah, the other thing too, Nestor, it doesn't just apply to tech names. Like, I'll give you another example quickly. Pfizer. You guys, we were talking about this, remember? You had a wash, thanks to Bernie Sanders. You had a niner, and then literally on the niner day, you had some decent sweeper activity. The problem, you had earnings 3 days. Otherwise, you know, you got a decent risk reward setup there with flow and a niner. So if you didn't have earnings, you have something nice, you know. So once we get through earnings, Pfizer had some more action today, but you know, she's already moving now. BMY, let's see. Yeah. Yep. That looks good. Merck. Oh, man. That came back nice, huh? Oh, that was earnings? Doing well in China. Yeah, because this had some flow, Merck. But again, earnings, not to sound like a broken record. Eli Lilly tanked. Let's see. Yeah, but it looked like it closed strong. That was earnings today? Yeah, earnings. This actually doesn't look too bad, Goalie. This looks decent too. You know, Jason, you have a great question. Jason's saying, is there a special way to search on private Twitter and never works for him? Jason, if I ask half the people in here, half of them will say it works, half of them it doesn't. Some days it works, some days it doesn't. It's been good to me of late, knock on wood. I don't know. We can never figure out the reason why, Jason. Are you on desktop? Are you on an app? I don't know if that has anything to do with it. This has been going on years. Yeah, see, desktop, I'm doing it right here on my desktop. It's the weirdest thing. I don't know. I even tried contacting you can't search either now, Paul. Ani's saying you'll have some permission set on private Twitter, why it only works for me. What do you mean? You guys can't search private Twitter? None of you? No. What? What do you mean? Everybody was searching it, last I heard. No? No, I'm telling you, this has got to be something recent because I know plenty of people who were searching. I'll try to find out again what the hell's going on. I don't know. Is it something, Ani, I got to do on my end? Really? All right, I'll look into it. That's so weird. Oh, somebody's saying, Ani, Twitter did an update that now if your account's private, you can't search. I'm telling you, that's not always been the case. You know, that's what people loved about Twitter, that you can search like that. Yeah, they should. That's what it was. If you had permission to follow, TweetDeck only on the computer only has current day though. Oh, Paul C saying on TweetDeck you can search the current day only. See, and I knew TweetDeck people going back further than I could. Yeah, the Twitter hippies are losing their minds there a little bit. I want to find a way to write them something or get a hold of them and try to fix this somehow. I'll try to see what I can do. No, if you're a follower, you had permission, you could search. That's how it used to be. Like if you weren't a follower, you couldn't search. But if you were a follower, you could search. You know, now even people who have permission can't even search. Ridiculous. But I'll see. I'll try to learn more and I'll see what I can. Yeah, they play games. They play games. Somebody said on one of the recent updates, that's what used to happen. Every update that they had, like I used to be able to go back and search. I could go back for as long as I can scroll. You know, now I can only go back a certain amount of days. And then sometimes I can't even go back a day. Like, look, where does this go back to? Let's see. March. Oh, that's Wall Street, Jesus. April 22nd. You know, that's as far as I could go for some reason today. There's no rhyme or reason to it. There's no rhyme or reason. But I'll see. I'll try to get more info. Maybe there's something I can do on my end to fix that. hopefully. But I'm glad you brought it up, Jason. And anyway, anybody who has, if you're on private Twitter or whatever, and you're not in the room, but see some of the small sweeps, people in the room would use private Twitter to search for anyway. But anyway, on the webinars, don't feel like you're a burden or anything. Ask me, and I'll pull it up for you guys. You know, on the Saturday webinar, on the Tuesday webinar, if you guys needed to know of any past orders. All right. Anybody who's new, if you're not a member, you could go to wallstreetjesus.com for some info. All right. If you're looking for a little more information, you got a strategy section right here. Quick and easy to read blogs. Okay. So you get an idea, a further idea of what we do. And then we've got a 3 free day trial, no credit card. So if you want to check it out for 3 days, really no obligation, no reason not to. See what the hell we're doing in there. I would wait till probably next week to do it. All kidding aside, let the flow clean up a little if you're interested in the 3-day trial. Just being honest. Yep, Yankees are winning ball games without any bodies, but hopefully we get a couple of bodies back and we'll be okay. All right, everybody, always a pleasure. Hope the gains stick in after hours for you earnings degenerates and you make some money mañana. All right. And sooner or later, the flow will clear up anyway. We'll be back to making some money. Be good, everybody. Enjoy your night.